Hello everyone, and welcome to my presentation. I am Ghada Akkad, and the title of my project and title of this presentation is Exploring the Relationship Between Normative Male Alexithymia and Male Role Norms in British Men. Let's get straight into it and find out some more. So why did I pick this? Why this area of interest? I'll tell you why. I wanted to understand better why men do not express their feelings and where it could have resulted from. I think, especially coming from a culture that places a lot of emphasis on how strong a man should be, I really wanted to know where that kind of comes from, where it resulted from. There was also a gap in the literature, and most studies regarding this were done in the United States and not here in the UK. And I think it is really important to investigate this as a counselor to better understand male clients, especially having just completed my placement and had male clients who were not very expressive. Okay, so what to expect? I'll be touching on the introduction, methods, results, discussion, and finally, conclusion. What message could you possibly take home from this? Okay. So introduction, I'll tell you a little bit about male role norms and alexithymia and stuff like that. So gender role norms are guidelines and standards that govern and guide feminine and masculine behavior. So masculine standards are demonstrated to males, for example, when they are informed that big boys don't cry, or when they observe other guys refusing to wear the color pink. So humans are socialized into gender roles based on their biological sex from then on. And these are the most pervasive roles, in addition to being some of the first given to a person. So these roles extend to what are acceptable vocations, acceptable emotions, appropriate clothing, and even to what people should choose to eat or drink. So as a result, males learn about some of the expectations and norms that come with being a man. And these are referred to as male role norms. So, according to a 2017 study by Joel Wong, men with masculine traits are more likely to have poor mental health and are even less likely to seek help. And according to the researchers, this was linked to several stereotypically masculine characteristics. So, men who placed a high importance on confidence, for example, were more likely to suffer from poor emotional health. This tendency to kind of appear emotionless in the face of adversity under the male role norms, it doesn't only impact on men's mental health, but it also prevents them from the inability to recognize or describe their emotions, in other words, known as normative male alexithymia. So Levant and Kelly discovered mild to moderate alexithymia among male participants of the Boston University Fatherhood Project in 1989. Levant used the term NMA, which is normative male alexithymia, to describe the pervasive and customary emotional restraint he noticed in many males in Western culture. He hypothesized that this condition was linked to men's traditional gender role socialization and masculine ideologies. In addition to this, Levant presented the normative male alexithymia hypothesis. He claimed that as boys, those men were discouraged by their parents, their peers, instructors, or coaches from expressing their emotions and feelings, and that some were actually penalized for doing so. These men in particular had the most difficulty recognizing and expressing feelings that represented vulnerability, such as sorrow, grief, or fear, or conveyed attachments such as caring or needing someone else. Levant devised a 5-stage psychoeducational program that may be completed before initiating therapy. And according to a pilot study, participants who completed this study showed a significant reduction in normative male alexithymia after finishing the program. So this psychoeducational approach developed by Levant could help British men with normative male alexithymia. However, Because the majority of Levent's research was done in the United States, his findings may not really apply to British men. And even so, outside of America, correlations between emotion, repression, and masculinities are well documented in Western men. Nonetheless, though, I think more research into the socialization of normative male alexithymia in British men is required. So, this study investigates the relationship between male gender role norms and normative male alexithymia amongst a sample of British men. As the focus of this study is a condition unique to men, it will only include participants who identify as male. And finally, this study hypothesizes that adhering to male gender role norms would be linked to normative male alexithymia traits. Okay, a little bit about the methods. So the BPS and BACP guidelines for ethical research and practice were followed in this study, and it was approved by the Research Ethics and Governance Committee of Bangor University School of Psychology. This was a correlational study using self-report measures, and this study employed two variables, a dependent and a dependent variable. The first variable is the normative male alexithymia score, and that is measured on the normative male alexithymia scale by Levent. And the male role norm score, as measured by the male role norms inventory short form, was the second variable. We tested a total of 172 male participants, and they were drawn from the general public and those in higher education, so level 4 to 7. And we did so by providing an online questionnaire. The participants were over the age of 18 years, and the average age was 35.16. And this included everyone. We did not exclude any nationality or any ethnicity. However, as this study is specific to men, we included participants who only identify as male. So the recruitment procedure included social media, typical Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, where we posted a link, and through SONA, which is a student participant panel psychology at Bangor University, where psychology students signed up in exchange for 2 credits. And finally, Qualtrics was the medium in which the questionnaires were presented through, and SPSS was used for data analysis. Okay, moving on to results. So a Pearson's product moment correlation was run to assess the relationship between normative male alexithymia and male role norms in British males aged 18 and older. As you can see, participants' total scores for the normative male alexithymia scale had a mean of 4.15 and a standard deviation of 1.20 and a range of 5.33. The total scores of the participants' male role norms inventory short form had a mean of 2.75, a standard deviation of 1.02, and a range of 4.57. So in total, actually, 195 people satisfied the requirements and agreed to participate. However, 17 did not respond to every question, and 6 opted not to say anything. Furthermore, 23 of them were not used since they could not produce or provide a valid score. So we took out 23 of them, and that's how we ended in the 172. So finally, we found a positive correlation. Yay, who doesn't want that? Between the two variables, as you can see in the table, and the variables there. Okay, and now moving on to the discussion. We're almost getting there. So this study hypothesized that adhering to male gender role norms would be linked to normative male alexithymia traits. I wonder how many times I'm going to say those words. The study then showed evidence that male gender role norms are linked to normative male alexithymia traits. In other words, the findings fit the hypothesis. Made my life a lot easier. So NMA is a condition in which certain men are unable to express their feelings verbally, It is thought to be caused by traditional masculine gender role socialization, one of which is the limiting of emotional expression. These men lack a language for many of their feelings as a result of their upbringing, particularly for sensitive emotions like fear and grief, which may make them look weak, and attachment emotions like compassion and fondness, which may make them sound needy. This then makes sense as how men with normative male alexithymia traits usually are the ones that conform to gender role norms, and how these findings are similar to the ones found in this study. Previous literature provides evidence to support these conclusions that conforming to male gender role norms leads to traits of normative male alexithymia. And there was a study that was mentioned above supports these findings that men who had high scores in the gender role norm scale also found it difficult to acknowledge and talk about their feelings. Although this study sheds light on a relationship between gender role norms and alexithymia, it is not without limitations. So one limitation is that these measures are reliant on self-report due to probable social desirability or response bias. There may be inconsistencies between what participants report and how they really behave. This may lead to participant bias since they are less likely to answer correctly, affecting the reliability of the results. And this might include a participant's present mood, which may have influenced their responses, for example. Another limitation is that it may be difficult to account for and control for all potential co-founders, as not every conceivable effect on male gender role norms was examined in this study. For example, this could include different cultures and sexual orientations. As 59.88% of males in this research were under the age of 35 and 28.49% were in their middle age, the findings may not be applicable to men at later stages of their life. So future studies should gather data using a multi-method approach, such as behavioral observations, to measure male gender norms and semantic priming to test alexithymia. Furthermore, despite the vast and diverse sample, another disadvantage is that the majority of participants were white British men. Future studies should seek out community members of a wider range of backgrounds than the current sample. And future studies could also draw participants that are currently going through counseling. This could provide a better understanding of how to move forward when dealing with male clients in therapy. Finally, this study has looked at normative male alexithymia and male gender role norms and has found a significant relationship. It does make sense to look at this as there are distinct expectations for men and women when it comes to processing emotions. Because women are totally perceived as sensitive, it is socially acceptable for them to communicate their emotions, such as grief or fear. Men, on the other hand, who are perceived as powerful and courageous, are discouraged from expressing their feelings in public. These cultural standards and gender stereotypes have been found for decades, and they may be poisonous, especially for men. Men who reveal their feelings are sometimes viewed as weak. As a result, many men avoid expressing their feelings for fear of penalties. However, repressing emotions and sensations may be extremely harmful to a man's mental health. And finally, I did not know much about alexithymia before this. Having more awareness about this has made it easier to understand some of my clients and has pushed patience a lot more in me, as well as creativity. Creativity to find ways to get my male clients to open up more. So it is important for us counsellors to familiarize ourselves with this, as it could be a barrier between a counsellor and male clients. Identifying these phenomena in British men and their impact on the therapeutic process will also be important in the field of counseling and psychotherapy because it will allow practitioners to better understand the challenges that men face and potentially provide a better understanding of how to treat them effectively. It can be difficult, but it is possible. This could be the first step into a better understanding of men. And thank you so much for listening, and I welcome any questions.